Hello, patrons. I hope you're well. Welcome to a patron exclusive Ask James, where I welcome questions from you guys on the YouTube community on anything football related, or quite frankly, as it's a patron stream, whatever the fuck you'd like. It is 5 past 1 p.m. UK time. My intention on this stream is to answer every question that comes in. If I'm still going in 70 minutes, I will have to cut it short because I'm on pickup duty for my boy. Nothing specific to announce other than I'm sure you've all seen the result of the Carabao Cup semi-final from last night. So double game week confirmed for Wolves and Arsenal in game week 26. Now means they will both also blank in game week 31. If you're our Planet FPL listener and you didn't know that, then I don't think you're a Planet FPL listener. Right, let's get into the queues. Patrick Wolf, he's first up, says, hi mate. What are your thoughts on Munoz? Up until the injury, he was an excellent FPL asset. With all the uncertainty around Crystal Palace now, is he an avoid even with good fixtures coming up? Cheers. I wouldn't stress that he would be an avoid. Someone said to me, I want to buy Daniel Munoz, who's got Brighton, Burnley, Wolves in the next 3, Leeds at home, game week 30. I can deal with that for game week 31. So, all right, cool. No problems. He'd actually be a much better asset, actually, if you were to free hit in game week 31. Don't advise anybody to do that. It'd be more useful in 33 or 34. But if you were running through, if you're someone who's already used a wild card, arguably makes him a better pick. 2 home games, 32, 33. That could become a double in 33, quite conceivably. So I wouldn't tell anyone that he was a specific avoid. I also don't think that he's a run 2 at this moment. I wouldn't go breaking about structures or anything like that. Truthfully, if I was to buy a defender in his price bracket range at the moment, I probably would more likely go Trevor Chalobah at the moment, just because that would be useful also in game week 31. Admittedly, shit fixtures 28 and 29, but otherwise more useful. So I wouldn't say run 2. If you're on, it's a definite hold. Hasselbank is win, says James. I'll keep repeating it. Arsenal from open play are abysmal to watch. Your opinions are top, but you overrate their attack. Supporting Tottenham shouldn't make you afraid to call out bad football. I can only call it as I see it, my friend, and they're the best team in the league by quite a distance. Are they the most enjoyable team I've ever seen, or are they going to be the most enjoyable champions ever? No. Are they going to care? No. I'm not sure what you want me to say. Otherwise, it's not like I'm going, oh, yeah, go and buy this attacker, that. I'm not advising any Arsenal attack. So I'm not quite sure where that's at. They're comfortably the best team in the league by a distance. What's abysmal about it in terms of open play? Okay. But you can say, oh, they're not as good going forward as City. All right. Might be right. A lot fucking better defensively, though. Dagston Haug says, hi James, thoughts on Trossard as a differential for the double? You have to downgrade Saka, but I'm happy with the defenders already in my team. You reckon he starts both games as Saka, Odegaard possibly out? Don't think that holds too much bearing. I'm not sure on the situation Odegaard at the moment. I think you should also bear in mind the following, the report that came out yesterday about Bukayo Saka, and the fact he was targeting a return at Tottenham in game week 27, which is the Sunday. They go to Wolves 4 days earlier. So if he's targeting a return at Tottenham, there's nothing to say he won't be back for Wolves. Right. You've also got Martinelli and Madueke could easily be the wide players. Do I think Trossard starts both? Wouldn't be a consideration, personally. It's a transfer waiting to happen after 26 as well anyway. So, as Hasselbank's win said, I'm not going to overrate Arsenal attackers. There's only one Arsenal attacker, truthfully, would be of any interest whatsoever to me at the moment, and he's not even an attacker, really. It's Declan Rice. Otherwise, just completely avoid Arsenal attack. Dagston Hug says, hi James. Thoughts on Trossard as, I doubt if I read that once, not twice. Uros Milicevic says, hello James. Should I hold or sell Tarkovsky and Lacroix? Downgrading one of them would allow me to upgrade King. Okay, but why do you want to upgrade King? What's the reasoning for that at the moment? Is it of essential importance? So I would say, looking at those players, Lacroix is great for the next 3, particularly 26, 27. Tarkovsky's really good for 26, 29. You might be less fussed about the other fixtures. I don't know what the impact is on that, but I would say both of those defenders are great for 26. For advanced tier patrons, I've just recorded the midweek dilemma. where I talk about trying to target a defender myself in 26, you'll have a stronger defence than me in 26 with those two players, I would imagine. So I wouldn't run from them. I would say 28 is probably sell Lacroix if you're on a kind of template strategy. In 28, it's sell to Collins, Anderson, whatever you want. Tarkowski, you could hold, particularly if you can bench in 28 and 30 or similar. Same thing, hit 27 or 28 and move it on. So I wouldn't rush to move either of them on. By consequence, Tarkowski to Collins, for example, is going to put a little bit of money in the bank. Might allow you to get up from King towards Stack, for example. Might be a decent one if you just need a better player for 31, maybe. I refer back to the piece I did on what the numbers say yesterday in reference to him. I wouldn't rush to sell either of those two players, mate. Harry Trimble says, hey, James, would you bench Haaland this week over Thiago and Szoboszlai? Logic being the robot will be tired from the League Cup tonight and the other two will face teams you've played midweek. No. No, I wouldn't advise it. What if City do go to Liverpool and do well? Fuck. Liverpool aren't exactly a super team, are they? As I kind of laid out on Monday's podcast, the more high-profile games at Anfield mentality has been right, I think, this season. And I would expect that again at the weekend. And let's not pretend that Haaland can't hurt Kanate and Van Dijk, right? In terms of being tired from tonight, I imagine City stroll through that, to be honest. Unless Newcastle get an early goal and get themselves close in the tie. Could even be a scenario where Haaland gets taken off early. Wouldn't reference to that tonight at all. Game isn't till Sunday. It's a 4-day turnaround. Manchester City don't play next midweek. Oh, yes, they do. Sorry. They play Fulham, obviously, next Wednesday. Everyone plays next midweek. No, but I wouldn't read too much into that. There is no thought for me whatsoever to bench Haaland. Too powerful. And that's not an EO too powerful. That's the player is too powerful. If Manchester City do well, he will do well. Brentford could do really well and Thiago does naff all. As seen at Villa, for example. So, no, I wouldn't be benching Erling Haaland under any circumstance in almost any game. Arsenal away is the only fixture I'd ever deliberate, I think, leaving him out. Adam Cooper says, hi, James, I need a Saka replacement this week. Who would you choose between Boomer and Wirtz? Good question. I think preference would be with Boomo. I do feel it's coming for Florian Wirtz. I think we can see it. I think Boomo's next two are significantly better than Wirtz. So if after those two you feel like you've got that wrong, you can change it. If you go the other way, you are stuck on Wirtz, which is fine. I'd say Wirtz probably 27 to 30 and 31 is better than Boomo, but I'd say right in front of you, the immediate two of Tottenham and West Ham is great for Brian Boomo. So my preference would be that you went Boomo rather than Wirtz. If I had that choice, that's the way I'd be going with it. Dan Bin says, there is an influence maybe that I'm sitting there with Ekateke as well, maybe, but I'm also sitting there with Fernandes, so I think Boomer. Dan Bin says, hi James, couple early bench thoughts, start Konsa or Goodmanson and start two from Thiago, Ekateke, Elliot Anderson, cheers. Elliot Anderson, as per what the numbers say yesterday, yeah, maybe it's being underrated. Way to Leeds, would I play him over Thiago? I think ultimately you've still got a talisman penalty taker there. In my scenario where I'm probably having to play Malik Chow this week, that would maybe be different. So unless you've got a Newcastle defender, it would still be Thiago. Ekateke all day long, mate. He's highly likely to be my vice captain. I mean that. All day long. On Konsa versus Goodmanson, Villa away to Bournemouth and Goodmanson at home to Forest. Yeah, I'd probably go for Goodmanson, mate. Also from Dan says, do you have any strong thoughts on how City Newcastle plays out tonight? And who would you prefer to reach the final? Is better equipped to beat Arsenal to win a final? I mean, City. Realistic. I know Newcastle had good results against Arsenal last year, but Newcastle was stronger last year with Isak up front, frankly. So, yeah, I hope City go through tonight, truthfully. How do I foresee it playing out? Quite straightforward, I think. Newcastle got to score first, haven't they? If City score first and it's 3-0, it's game done with Newcastle's away record and stuff. So I think it'll probably be straightforward. Not necessarily in the sense of Newcastle City winning comfortably tonight, but I don't foresee Newcastle narrowing the gap and winning on the night. So I imagine it will be quite straightforward. Mike says, hi, James. Would you use your only free transfer to bring in João Pedro for Go and then bench one of Ekiteke or Semenyo? Rest the squad is set up nicely. I mean, this guy's Ekiteke. I can't be any clearer about it. Would I buy João Pedro for Go? Yeah, why not? Semenyo scored twice at Anfield game week 1. You might want to bear that in mind. But you would play João Pedro out of the 2 this week, I think. I thought he played pretty well last night, particularly first half, actually. He was linking to play quite well for Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, Goo is going to be problematic, whether that's now, whether that's the blank game week 31, whatever that is, that needs moving on. Whether you want to wait for something in 28-ish or so, but with all Ekiteke already there, it's probably not, isn't it? So, in any case, João Pedro for 3 weeks and then on to Thiago, for example. Yeah, I'd get it done, mate. But I definitely would not be benching Ekiteke. Blue Christo says, hello, mate. Is Rice less appealing at the moment than earlier in the season? I own, but I'm considering selling, adding Timber to Gabriel and Raya before 26. Yeah, I think were I free hitting in 26, I'd probably go treble Arsenal. So I'm obviously on the double and I'm on Rice. I don't think it's worthwhile for me to use 2 transfers to be pissing that about, personally. If something opens up where there's a midfielder that I desperately want instead, then that would maybe be a consideration. And also there's an awkwardness about investing in defenders, which I cover on the midweek dilemma today, in 26 specifically. So, yeah, at this route, at this moment, if I was on 2, yeah, I'd probably go for the treble Arsenal defence at this stage. Definitely wouldn't move Rice on if you own like me. I'd just let it be. But yeah, preference at this moment would be, go all in on the defence. James Brennan says, hi, James. Would you take a -4 to go from Dubravka and Saka to Cunha and Raya? Other keeper is Rofs and have Gabriel and Rice. I could also go Frimpong to Timber instead as part of the -4. So you'll know I don't like -4s for defensive players. But there is some justification here in this sort of move. So Saka to Cunha, if that was a -4 in itself, you go, yep, fine. That's not what this part of it is, though. It probably is all shit bringing Raya for the -4. The only thing I'd say to that, James, is can the Dubravka to Raya move wait a week? Because I don't think Dubravka doesn't have a terrible fixture this week. And realistically, Raya at home to Sunderland, what's the expected points on that? Where would we place it? 4.5 maybe. Strong chance of clean sheet, 6-pointer versus probably minus a 2-pointer. So what's the hit for in this week got to be worthwhile? So what I'd say on that is if you can still leave the keeper move or even the defensive move another week, I'd probably do that. Frimpong, of course, is also a problem for you. How are you dealing with that? What is that going to? Are you wanting to hide it for the prospect that he might be back for, say, game week 28? Probably wouldn't bother. I'd get something done. So Frimpong to Timber as a -4 would be justifiable, right? Dubravka probably doesn't score 0 against West Ham. Jeremy Frimpong will. Also, what's the impact of, right, okay, I don't make any moves. Who plays instead? They become the effective -4 over for the one specific game week. So the moves are fine, James, whichever way you want to go. And I'd probably take the Raya route on the basis that you could hide him for game week 31. But I wonder if it can just wait a week rather than the hit. C. Boilers says, James, has Dejan Kulusevski fallen off the face of the earth? Any timelines for a return to action? No. There seems to be some hope from within some Tottenham ITKs that we might get some news soon. But a lot of their information across January has been fucking terrible. I see lots of images of James Maddison training, kicking a ball, shooting. I see nothing of Dejan Kulusevski. And it might be that Tottenham are keeping that very well hidden, potentially. But there's real concern, I think. We'll hear something soon, I think, one way or the other, that he's either not going to be back this season or he's close to it, one or the other. I suspect it might be the former, unfortunately, but understand my pessimism on that. Brian Lee says, hi, James. Happy with team in short term, but long term, Gay and Tarkovsky will move out. Who to move to and when? And when that frees up funds, would you do Krupi to Thiago? So here's a really interesting thing, which I'll spoil the midweek dilemma a little bit. But the most likely player for me to buy in the game this week, as it stands, is Mark Gay. I have 0.2 available to go from Nico O'Reilly to Mark Gay, and it just removes a headache from week to week. Is he going to play? Isn't he going to play? If I wait till 26, I'm priced out of that move. If that's the move that I decide I want to make, I'm in a fortuitous position with squad depth that I probably can afford to make that move and still be in a comfortable position where I've got a lot of transfers in hand heading into the blank, where I would obviously sell Mark Gay to something else. Is it then worthwhile in 1 week? Am I better off? Well, I'll go Anderson or Collins, kind of like as I said earlier, a different time around about, say, game week 28. I know O'Reilly could yet be useful for me. If you told me O'Reilly plays all the games, I'm not making that move, am I? So it's only in, and I wouldn't start Gay this week, obviously, if I went now. So truthfully, if you got Mark Gay, I think the answer is game week 31. Because if I invested him, that's what he's going in, he's staying in as long as he's fit, and he's playing every game for me from 26 to 30. So 31 on Mark Gay in terms of the time of movement on that. James Tarkovsky, as mentioned earlier, it's probably look again, maybe 27, 28. What's the impact for you on 29? You definitely don't want to play him in 30 away to Arsenal. 31 could still be useful. Home to Chelsea, it's probably a DEFCON game for him. Krupi to Thiago. I mean, at this moment, I probably wouldn't be selling Krupi. Don't think so. Don't think I would. I think João Pedro's short term is obviously interesting. Thiago comes back around when João Pedro's fixtures get tough. Ekiteke looks really good, 27/28 onwards to the blank. Haaland, I still think looks great over those fixtures as well. They're kind of the only forwards at this moment in time, really. So if I had Krupi, I don't think I'd be pissing that about, I don't think. No, I don't think I would. I think I'd leave it be, mate. Until the situation changes. The fixtures are good, man. Like that same period, 27 to 30, West Ham, Burnley away, Sunderland, Brentford at home. Good, isn't it? If I suddenly need to find money, he's on the tension for me. So, but I totally accept Thiago would be over the same period as well. But I don't think I'd piss about with that, mate. Looking a good asset now, Krupi. Kieran says, hi, James. Stumped with Bruno versus Bumo versus Verts this week to hold through to 31. Not sure how Sesko may be starting affects Bumo in this system. Thanks. Well, we don't know that he is or he was. But it's, as I think it was Alistair asked the question earlier, same answer, buddy. Be Bumo for me at the moment. Leonardo Dimitrov, hello, my friend, says, hi, James. What do you think about Ismail Assar? Probably on penalties. 3 great fixtures, 26, 27, 30. Possible double in 33 and 36. Yeah. Be careful with the possible double, right? Double happens in 33 on a combination of a number of things. One, Liverpool got to get to an FA Cup semi-final. It's way too early to know if that's likely or not. 36 pretty much only happens really on the prospect that Manchester City stay in Europe and get to the FA Cup semi-finals as well. It's a projection, is not a prediction. It's a projection on like the probability on a pathway. It's not likely. It's the reality right now. You're also asking about holding an asset who has had inconsistency historically for pretty much the whole season. You say 26, 27, 30 is good, right? Well, do you want to bench that asset for 28, 29 then? I would suggest United and Tottenham away, by the way, are not terrible. On the penalties, wouldn't be at all surprised if Jurgen Strand-Larsen takes them. Decent asset. Fine. If that's the player that you really fancy, he looked really good earlier in the season. I owned him for a little bit. Good prospects, good asset. What's the impact of Mateta not being available? What's the impact of Palace's form? I don't mind him, but I think it falls into more like the punty period. at the moment. There are a number of good assets for 26, 27. The fact that you highlight 28, 29 makes me think you're not convinced about it. So definitely probably wouldn't buy this week. See how you feel next week. Also, I don't know what you're selling. But yeah, there's capability. There's no doubt about it. Just be careful about the thought process about doubles later on, which also, by the way, would include fixtures away to Liverpool and away to Manchester City. And I'd be careful about the penalty narrative as well. What if Mateta is integrated back into the team? Well, he'll take him, won't he? Weeman Bruno says, Tarkowski or Anderson this week? Tarkowski better away, and Fulham just don't seem to be able to keep a clean sheet. Yeah, I'd be playing Anderson, mate. Sorry. Fixtures. That's me. Uros says, hold or sell Thiago? For me, it's a hold, probably. There's the value representation to that. So, for example, João Pedro's minutes probably won't be as strong as him, but probably comfortably outscores him over the next 3 weeks or so. Are you then happy to jump back? For me, who's, I don't know, what I'm up 0.9 or so, I'm probably benching him for the next 2, and then he's sitting there for me. I've got that luxury. Okay? There's every chance that you might not, in which case there's a temptation to move on. Definitely wouldn't particularly fear Newcastle away, and unless you've got Newcastle defensive asset that you need to play like me, perfectly reasonable to play. Obviously, Arsenal's conflicting, but he's the pen taker. He only needs a chance, and his potential returns. So it's 2 weeks, and then there's every chance you want it back. So personally, in most scenarios, it's a hold, I think. Gareth says, hi, James, play Wirtz or Thiago? Close that. I can see I'm going to have to put Newcastle and Brentford players on dilemmas this week, aren't I? That's clear already. Preference Thiago, again, unless you're in a similar situation to me with Newcastle assets, pen taker, mate. Tanky says, afternoon, James. I have 2 free transfers and I'm looking for Saka replacements. Already have Bruno and Enzo. Any nice differentials? Well, Ismail Assar could be one that's obviously been mentioned. It's reasonable. I'll throw Emi Buendia's name into the hat. I'm not going to throw Cole Palmer's name into the hat. James Garner, as per what the numbers say yesterday. There isn't anything Bournemouth at the moment. It's a little bit unfortunate. Otherwise, that would be of interest. Yeah, I mean, Ismail Assar might even fit on the tin. Otherwise, truthfully, Bumo, Cunha, Rodgers, Semenyo again from 26. But as I said, he's scored twice at Anfield already this season. Yeah, the obvious ones are the better calls, I think, truthfully. Weeman Bruno says, what's best picks for defenders over the next couple of weeks? I have Tarkowski, Anderson, 2 Arsenal, and Vandenberg. Well, I don't think you need to go running away from any of that. Tarkowski is perfectly fine to pick alongside the 2 Arsenal for the next few weeks. Anderson is fine for this week. As I said, I'd probably slight preference Anderson over Tarkowski. Anderson's then really good, 28 to 31. Vandenberg might also be very good for that period. Obviously, he came back in the team at the weekend, but it was a surprise that Nathan Collins didn't start. So we're not quite sure on the preference of the 2 at this moment. I'd leave that be this week, mate, personally. Thomas McLeod says, hey, James, I have 3 defenders on the chopping block. Chow, O'Reilly and Vandenberg. Don't know who should be first to go or who to bring in. Loads of budget. Also have Raya, Gabriel, Alderete. So Alderete feels shit this week, right? Gabriel obviously plays. I would say Vandenberg feels shit this week. O'Reilly feels shit this week. Malik Chow is the best of that bunch for this week. Also probably covers you fine for 31. The rotation of Newcastle Sunderland works okay. So it's O'Reilly or Vandenberg on the chopping block. I think it's at 26. Chow at Tottenham. If O'Reilly played, Fulham at home. Don't want to use Vandenberg. Vandenberg could still be good, 27-30 though. I think it's Gay on. I, from that perspective, would maybe look at Anderson or a Bournemouth player, I think, at this moment. What I've discussed on the midweek dilemma today is about wanting to make that decision next week, but not loving any of the choices next week specifically. I would be quite tempted with Senesi as someone who's good for DEFCONs. The fixtures are largely good. Arguably the most difficult fixture, 25 to 31, is this week. And they're at home, and Villa are short of a few players at the moment. So we're forced into it, possibly Senesi or James Hill, obviously, as an alternative. The beauty with that is you could go down to Hill, and then maybe you might be able to come up off the other one, be it this week or next week. Ura says Fortson and Dye. Hold if you own comfortably, I think, for the next couple would be fine. No interest in buying at the moment. As per what the numbers say that I did yesterday, where I invest in there at the moment, truthfully, I'd go and get James Garner before I went and got Illiman and Dye, I think. But I wouldn't sell him if you own. I think it's perfectly reasonable for the next couple. He'll be on pens. He's got a talismanic nature to him. We haven't seen anything of real interest, I think, since he returned from AFCON. So, I mean, a away fixture this week. No interest to go and buy. Gareth says, His Heart's Claudio Braga chant, tune of Radio Gaga, the best football chant. Love it. Really good. And I've seen a few rip-offs going around from other clubs, and it just doesn't work the same way. It's really good. Tanky said, should I use my triple captain this week? Not sure how many potentials are left, but hearing City might after game week 31. Okay. So, first thing is not this week. You obviously mean game week 26, I'm assuming. For City, we need an awareness of... let me set it to you like this. Right. For City to double in 36, the first thing that probably needs to happen is they probably have to make the FA Cup semi-final. To make the decision next week, no information. Nothing changes between now and then that helps that information move forward. Secondly, I think you may need them to stay in the Champions League because, as I covered on the Chip Strategy podcast a couple of weeks ago, if City, say, went out in the last 16 or the quarterfinals of the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised if that double happened in game week 35. But then it does still happen. Okay? You need City to get to the FA Cup semi-final. We've played one round to get Arsenal away in round 5. To be honest, what if they get anything competent in round 5 of Fulham or Brentford? I'd be nervous for them, actually, particularly if it was away from home. Obviously, if it was away from home. So, the general rule of thumb on this: first good triple captaincy option that appeals for a team in a small double game week, use it. Gabriel's EO is going to be massive. Huge. I think it may well be over 200%. I think there's every chance that happens. So, for me, I have full intention to get that done on Gabriel, mate. Lamichi says, Hi, James. Who would you start out of Munoz or Thiago? Thiago, mate. Yeah, still an away game for Palace, who've largely been quite shy of recent. Not that Brighton have been great, but pen taker, yeah, I'll be playing Thiago, mate. Rhino's in. Ed says, afternoon, James. Sorry we couldn't bloody Arsenal's nose. Shit, wankers. Rice is so good to watch live. Thanks, I feel better now. Why do you think Romero is so frustrating in the league? He clearly clear, but sometimes doesn't look like it. He's a top player. He's a top player. And in the biggest moments, he shows up best for us. Our league season is nowhere really, right? It's potentially, it could be in trouble. But there's nothing to be achieved. There's only something to save. I think that's an impact. I think in league games as well, when we're not playing the best sides, there's always next week. That often isn't the case in, say, a Champions League game or something. I mean it generally that I think he's one of the best distributors from centre-back in world football. He's one of the most aggressive, which has positive and negative connotations to it. There are games in the league where he does show up really well. There's just an inconsistency there that I think rubs off on a lot of the rest of the team. And you're right, he does clearly care. I think maybe a more direct nature from some of the opponents is perhaps less to his liking, although you would think the ability to have physical duels with people can work to his favour. He's always aggressive, and that's not in the sense of always just being all in the tackle. I mean, in terms of stepping out and trying to win the ball, if you look at the second goal, which I highlighted at Burnley, there's an aggressive nature to his play of stepping out and trying to win the thing. His recovery afterwards is disgraceful. Can't explain that. FPL Gas is in, says, hello, James. Camrich has started well for us. 3 goals in 2 games. Long may it continue. So Yusuf Camrich is a young wide player that's gone to Bristol Rovers on loan from Tottenham. I told Dan that I thought he was quite erratic, and I still stand by that, but he has started quite well. Kasim says, what do you think about Rice, Timber in 28 to Wirtz and Anderson? I'm only losing 0.2 in value for both. Absolutely fine, mate. Particularly if your intention is to wildcard 32. You're taking Arsenal on for Chelsea at home, Brighton away, Everton at home. It's not something I particularly want to do, but I don't mind it. It's a want Wirtz, isn't it? That's what that is, which I understand. It's a want Wirtz for West Ham, Wolves, Tottenham. And then obviously the blank is obviously better than Arsenal. I get that. I don't think that decision needs to be made right now, my friend. I think you want to keep it in mind. Florian Wirtz is on my mind as well. But I don't think that decision needs any thought process whatsoever over the next 2 weeks or so. You will probably know what you want to do in a couple of weeks. Matt Bryant says, hello, mate. Don't know how familiar you are with Fan Team, but be interested in your thoughts on planning. Only chip allowed is wildcard. Free transfers reset to 0 after wildcard. How would you navigate blanks and doubles? Okay. So, not massively is the honest answer, Matt. So you will know better than me in most scenarios. I don't know if there's huge differences in pricing and stuff like that. Just the wild card to navigate. There's 2 ways of probably doing it. One is probably still to look at maybe 32 or 33. Probably 33. And you just balance. You obviously haven't got to worry about a bench boost. So, I don't know. You go with the great doublers and ignore the rest. And I presume you can keep some form of transfers in hand. I don't know if it's maximum of 2 in that. And spread that around for game week 34. Maybe you go a couple of players short. Alternative, you run heavy for 33. And wildcard 34 for the last 5 game weeks. Problem with that is if you then have scenarios where some of the strong sides double and then they blank 34, you're like, oh, great, thanks. What am I wildcard into? So I'd think maybe 33 in terms of best balance. Maybe, I would think. It's tough. It's very, very tough. There is also, it's worth bearing in mind, there are scenarios, Matt, where you could have a team double in 33 and still play in 34. For example, let's say Man City go out in the FA Cup quarter-final. Well, there's every chance that City will then play in 34 at Burnley, and they'll have the rearranged fixture with Crystal Palace maybe in 33. And then, right, treble City, isn't it? You might want to come off your City before that for the blank in 31 and then Chelsea away in 32. So I think the honest answer to that is, Matt, you need to hold it back, i.e. not use it now. And you need to be reactive to your scenarios and know that it's probably in and around 32, 33, 34, and you don't have to make that decision just yet. Charlie Edwards says, I have Chow in the 11, O'Reilly benched this game week. Downgrading O'Reilly to do Chow to Timber. Both moves this week from -4. Just O'Reilly downgrade to avoid price drop and Timber in 26 or both in 26 for free transfers. Sorry, I'm a little confused, Charlie, if we need to take -4 now or if they're for free. Like, if you want to do both, or you're saying do both for free in 26 or -4 now. Okay, I understand. I think on that basis, mate, it's the O'Reilly downgrade now. It's Chow to Timber in 26. As much as Timber might look a better asset this week, it's not a -4 transfer, mate, I don't think. FBL Gas says, do I replace Cherky now for someone 7.5 and under, Sarr, Somerville, Rayan, etc., and bench Thiago? Or do I roll, play Thiago, and then in 26 do Cherky to Bumo, Cunha, and DCL to Mane or Krupe? Yeah, probably prefer the latter on that, Dan. I think, Yeah, prefer the latter on that. I think it just feels a week early for Saar, and Somerville's obviously had a good little streak, but you will want to deal with that again in a few weeks. Ram, we shouldn't be buying before 27 once we've got some more info. And on that basis, Wee Man Bruno says, what Bournemouth should we be looking at? Hill, Senesi, and Krupi. That's it at this moment. And as just said, maybe Rayan 27. Liam Neville says, hi, mate. Hope you're well. Don't ask me how, but I've got Conor Gallagher in my team. Do you think as soon as Rayan gets into the starting 11, he's the move? Yeah, I mean, that's a different one to Dan's one. We had to go, do you want to punt something else here for a couple of weeks? Because that's fucking useless. Please have a look at James Garner. I mean that. Put some money in the bank for you as well. Just have a look at it. Mike says, is O'Reilly a hold if you can easily bench or just get rid? The problem is, it's like the question, Mike, will ultimately be answered by the outcome of his minutes. So it's like, if I knew he was going to play every game 26 to 30, he can stay there. It's fine. Don't care if that's left back, midfield, could stay. Fine. But I'm going to walk into a headache every single week, aren't I? And I'm going to walk into a number of weeks where I'm walking into a headache going, oh, I play Chow at home to Everton, or I'll play O'Reilly away to Leeds. Or, oh, I got O'Reilly at home to Nottingham Forest 29. I've got Alderete away to Leeds, or Chow at home to Manchester United, and I might play O'Reilly because the fixture's better and then he's a 1-pointer. It's just a nagging problem that's going to be there every week, I think, now that Ray and Aït-Nouri's back. So if you can easily bench and then the situation changes, fine. But I don't think it is an easy bench, is it? Because 26, in most scenarios, Fulham at home, you're going to want to play. 29, 30, you're going to want to play. And it's going to be a headache, I think. Particularly factoring, obviously, either side of 29, 30 is City's Champions League last 16 games. It's probably a move on. You need to kind of weigh in the value of the transfer for you. I'm in a more of a luxury position where moving forward, I think I'm pretty content. That scenario could change, but I can afford it, the move. Like O'Reilly to Gay on the face of it makes no sense. But actually moving forward, it gives me security over the following 5 game weeks. Potentially gives me a move that I can make that I wouldn't be able to afford next week, and actually leaves me better set without the headaches moving forward. But then by consequence means, should I have an attacking injury and go, well, I know Gay will play. Okay, fine. Do I want to play Chow or Alderete with them? Also, I've got 8 attacking players. My cheapest attacker is Harry Wilson. So even if I did get an attacking injury, I should be all right without having to be forced into stuff necessarily. So circumstances are slightly different per individual. I would say it's probably a move on in most cases. Harry Trimble says, Cucurella was great FPL asset towards the end of last season, hence getting priced at 6 million. What changed? Defcons. Defcons what changed? You don't really hit them. So there's not really justification in it. Also, Chelsea's home form has not been great this season. I think they kind of rank about mid-table in terms of home results. So those that are, oh yeah, he's got a 10 or a 12 pointer there. There ain't been much of that in home games particularly. You can also get wild fluctuations in terms of where he plays. He came on against West Ham and played as like a left wing back. He can obviously invert into midfield. He can stay part of a back three and build up. But ultimately, I think Chelsea's home results have probably not been strong enough to make that justifiable this year. And yeah, Defcons has changed the game. Mike says, is that Suj's shadow that keeps walking past? So no, there's a small window on this door and the sun's actually out at the moment. So if anyone walks past, it's impacting me and there's very little I can do about it, I'm afraid. The Valens Rex says, when do you think your next mid-forward transfer will be? I have almost the same 8 as you and cannot foresee needing to sell until Enzo's fixture run ends. You've got your answer, mate. Yeah. I mean, look, I can look at other players and think, oh, I'd like Bumo. I'd like Kevin Sade maybe in a few weeks when he's back from suspension, or keep an eye on Oscar Bob, James Garner, as I've said, and stuff. No real will. Doesn't have to be, does it? This is a great time to build up transfers, mate. I promise. My biggest target over the next few weeks isn't what happens with rank or anything. I can't impact that too much. I've got a strong squad. I want to get to game week 32, really, with a wild card and with probably minimum 3, but ideally really 4 free transfers in hand at that time as well. Holden says, who do you think is the better Chelsea option for 3 weeks, Enzo or João Pedro? Okay, let's not consider outside factors like what you might be selling. Let's just answer the question. Who do we think scores more over those 3 game weeks? We're up to JP in front of goal, wasn't it? I think he looked, as I said, I think he looked really good last night. It was really good when he came on the weekend. I think that's probably got a more explosive nature to it. So the answer would be João Pedro between the two. Easily be the other one. If you're sitting there with 3 forwards you like and a midfielder you want to bin, I wouldn't be forcing João Pedro in instead of Enzo Fernandez on that basis. Right? So it should be, it's close. It's close is my point. Andy Parker says, hello, mate. Just watch what the numbers say. What do you think about Casemiro or Elliot Anderson for 5th midfielder slot? Or would you save a Man United slot for other players? As per that piece on what the numbers say, yeah, Casemiro is perfectly reasonable, mate. If these minutes will set up, there should be an awareness that he hasn't hit DEFCON in any of Michael Carrick's games. He obviously does hold a greater attacking threat. The good news is his minutes have been on the rise pretty much since the end of December, and United only play 1 game a week, and it feels very settled now with Kobe Mainu next to him, who can do a bit more legwork for him as well, I think, unlike, say, Manuel Ugarte. So Casemiro is reasonable. I highlight on that piece, which I think was a good piece I did yesterday. I looked at a number of players for DEFCONs. I did midfielders in that bracket who can be good for DEFCONs. And there are 4 that stood out for me. Elliot Anderson, James Garner, Casemiro, and the 4th, more for price in regions, is Anton Stack of Leeds. If you had a preference for Casemiro, fine. I don't think there's a problem going Casemiro because I don't foresee real interest in United defensive assets personally. Particularly once these next 2 are gone, Tottenham and West Ham, and it's like, I don't really want that anyway. Dorgu would have maybe been it. So I don't foresee a scenario where you're going to want 4 United attacking players. Okay, so if you go Fernandes, Bumo, Casemiro, you think you're going to be running to Cunha or Sesko? I do really want Fernandes, Bumo, Cunha. It's quite heavy on Manchester United, isn't it? From price perspective, Casemiro is a bit different. So if you want Casemiro, if that's your choice, it's fine. No problem with that whatsoever, mate. I think he'll play the majority of the games moving forward. I think his minutes will be good. We should just note that he hasn't hit DEFCON in the last 3. But he'll pick up with attacking returns more than those other 3 players that I mentioned. I knew that you meant... you're saying so over Anderson. And this is the last question from Andy. So he's saying Casemiro over Anderson. For me, probably no. No. There's a higher ceiling to Casemiro, but it's just a wonderful guarantee with Elliot Anderson. I don't see many problems with that from the fixtures coming forward, bar maybe 26 at home to Wolves, but that might be the one where he pops up with an unlikely attacking return for you. So, no. If I was buying personally, it'd be Anderson or Garner. What I spoke about quite a lot and what the numbers say yesterday was that if Chelsea won last night and went through, James Garner was going to be of real serious interest to me quite quickly. I feel less like that now. So I think were I investing in that position new, Anderson certainly wouldn't move from any one to the other of those. All of those 4 players are decent assets. Stack, Casemiro, Garner and Anderson. James Garner essentially has been matching Anderson over the last 8 weeks or so and does have a little bit more attacking threat. But actually, when you dive in further to Anderson and look at the weeks where he hasn't hit, it's like, yeah, your man is going to be like 80% return on it. Kind of minimum, it feels like. Okay, guys, I think that's questions covered. Thank you very much to all of you who contributed. That's hugely appreciated. There's nothing worse than me turning up for these streams and not having questions in there. So I really thank all of you who have contributed to that. Money Football special for you tomorrow on the Deloitte Money League, and obviously got game week 25 preview differential show for you on Friday as well. Remember, it is a Friday deadline this week. Definitely don't make any transfers this afternoon, just in case Newcastle do turn it around against Manchester City tonight, because that may change some of your thinking moving forward, and it will come as a surprise if it happens. But thanks very much, everyone. Thank you all for your very continued support. For the benefit of those on the audio, cue music, please, Manchild.